So today on Cat Talk, we have Jenny, who is joining us from Catpads. Thanks for joining us, Jenny.
My pleasure.
Excellent. Now, we're going to be talking about cat enclosures today, and you guys do installations of cat enclosures, but I know you're a big advocate across the board of making sure that cats have got good environments, whether it's done by you guys or whether it's a DIY or whatever. Tell us what actually got you into doing some of the Catpad enclosures to start with.
Okay. About 6 years ago, we had a very special cat called Lewis. He was a Russian Blue, and we lost him on the road outside the front of our house. So that was pretty devastating. I think I just kept crying for weeks, and we had the opportunity of adopting two other Russian Blues that needed rehoming. They were Adelaide cats from an Adelaide breeder, but they were living in a family in Sydney that were relocating overseas. So we managed to have the confidence of the owners to say, yep, they're going to come over to us. And we just looked at the whole situation. It was like we couldn't go through this again. And a lot of our clients say this, I just can't do it again.
Yep.
You get to a certain point. And so we ended up getting an enclosure. We looked at the enclosures and we ended up getting, it was an interstate firm at the time, Enclosure Built. My husband is a builder, and he was just looking at doing his building. He'd been in bathrooms 15 years, building bathrooms, and he wanted to change. So we actually looked at the whole idea of building enclosures and just being Adelaide based and for South Australia, and using as many products as we could that were South Australian, because a lot of the steel got shipped down from Queensland and stuff that really could have been bought here.
Yep.
So it was a combination of the personal loss and tremendous feeling of guilt, actually. And I still have that with Lewis, other than now the cat enclosures that we build are virtually Lewis's legacy. So it was a very personal loss. And then making the decision to put these two cats, which were outside cats on the North Shore of Sydney, and to actually build an enclosure around our deck, barley hut, fern palm garden, enclose that, use the netting, because Peter said, I don't want to see it. I don't want them to be in a cage. I don't want it to look like a cage. So the netting was absolutely fantastic. You don't see it so low vis. And that was stage one of their cat enclosure. It has since grown from our own builds, and we've got little Burmese that he heads over away from the Russian Blues because they sleep all day and he's a bit bored, I think. And he heads over to a converted aviary. And if people do that, that's a great thing to do, convert an aviary if they want to. Some of these things can be your own projects. It really doesn't matter. It is about responsible cat management, and I would say that I let that slip with Lewis myself, but pet ownership, responsible pet ownership. So our little Burmese Paddy, named after Catpads, of course, he heads over through the garden, up over a skywalk and over into the aviary, and spends hours over there watching another aspect of our garden.
Yeah, excellent. I've got to say I'm completely with you on there. I think my biggest regret across the board from years of owning cats is those cats that have either been killed or gone missing under my care. Like it's something that you never forget, and it really does. And I'm sure anybody that understands cat ownership and has that relationship with cats, cats in particular, and dogs as well, but cats more so, you build that relationship with them. So it really, it's a lot.
Part of your family.
They are part of the family, and you have to have a relationship with a cat for them to be part of the family. Like, there's a very strong bond with cats, and they're humans. So I'm getting goosebumps talking about the fact that, it really is something that haunts you. And so you can only start from today as to, what you're going to do with your pets and your animals and that sort of thing. But yeah, the more that you can have them looked after, the better. So when you're actually building, there's a lot of benefits in building an enclosure. Obviously, that's probably the main one, is that safety aspect. What are some of, because it gives you that peace of mind that you know that the cats are going to be safe. There's a lot of benefits though, isn't there, for actually having your cats in some kind of enclosure or indoors?
Well, that's right. One of the most common things that in feedback we get is we've got peace of mind, and those first phone calls that people make to me are often quite emotional. As you said, you've just got goosebumps talking about something. So that phone call through to us needs, I think, is a first stepping point in moving on, that you are doing something. But basically, look, the risks out there for cats being attacked by dogs, run over like Lewis was, getting lost, getting contagious diseases, feline AIDS, all of that is out there as factors that can limit your cat's life. Quite costly. Now, I have to say, vets have been fantastic in supporting containment and recommending the cat enclosure businesses in Adelaide, including ours, because as much as it's business for them, they really don't want to be dealing with injured animals, whether it's cats, dogs or otherwise. It's actually quite upsetting for them. And so if it's preventable, this is a way of doing that. So sometimes vet bills from snake bites in summer, all of that are quite high, and in comparison, when you look at us building an enclosure, it's quite reasonable to build an enclosure. So that sort of cost difference can be a real factor, particularly if there's abscesses on pets and they've got to have it treated and be back to treatment. One of our clients the other day said, the cat's been to the vet twice this week. So imagine that might have been a bit costly. Look, neighbours are a big thing too, Melissa.
Definitely. Completely agree with that. I think a lot of people don't consider that when you're responsible for an animal, you're not just responsible for their well-being, but you also have to be a good neighbour and a good community person, don't you?
That's right. Neighbours do get upset with cats coming into their yard and using their veggie patch as a toilet or something like that. So there's also a risk with your cat jumping fences and going over into neighbours' places, that there's sometimes dogs there that aren't particularly friendly towards cats, and owners of properties that perhaps don't like cats. And unfortunately, that is just a fact. Not everybody supporter of cats.
I actually think that's a really important point, that a lot of the time people don't want to talk about the really nasty things that can happen, but there are a lot of people out there that are not necessarily nice people and are not going to be nice to animals in general. So we do have to actually consider that, not everybody's nice like we are. Not everybody wants to care for those little people around the place with fur. And there can be some nasty, nasty people with some nasty ideas of what they want to do with some of these animals out there. So, very important point.
I guess a big one, and I live in the Mitcham Hills, and we do a lot of work up with Adelaide Hills and Mount Barker area. And wildlife has come back through the community consultation programs. The wildlife being protected and cats not killing it's not just birds, it's the little lizards, it's everything.
Yep.
Is a big thing. Now, cats are territorial and they are hunters, and that's so it's about sort of looking at how you deal better with those two personality or traits of a cat.
Yes.
But some are better at hunting than others, granted. But the wildlife and protection of wildlife is a big issue. We have
definitely
put built an enclosure for Monarto Zoo a couple of years ago, where they were developing a native flowers type trail, and our cat enclosure was at the end. And so basically their message is, yes, you can attract the birds into your garden with all these beautiful natives, but have your cat enclosed at the same time.
And that's a really good point. We have a couple of areas where we've got outdoor areas for our cats, and one of the favourite things that they like to do is that little chatter that they do to birds. Like, they'll watch them and they love them and all that sort of stuff, but we know that they're not out there killing them. And obviously we have lots of other enrichment because we've got Abbeys and Somalis, so they're pretty athletic cats anyway. So we play with the teasers and that sort of thing to give them that stimulation. But being able to see the birds and enjoy the birds and the sunshine and the fresh air is just as much enrichment to cats as what chasing and killing them would be.
It's like watching Netflix, isn't it?
Yes.
You get a cat out there and they're just sitting up on their ledge and they're watching the birds all day. Our birds has been in Blackwood. We feed the parrots, and we know our pairing parrots around the place and whatever. And we've got a beautiful family of magpies up in a couple of gum trees. And the funny thing is, the birds know if the cats are out. Now
they do, don't they?
A door has been left open, and Max, one of our cats, has decided, because he's the one that thinks he's the great adventurer and he's the scaredest cat of all. But he gets outside and then panics. But the birds let me know he's out. They carry on like anything. And one Christmas we extended our enclosure, and the cats were in a new bit of the garden, walking around. Well, the birds went absolutely off their heads. And then they realised they were behind netting, and then they all calmed down. But I think there's a thing too that the birds aren't going to come into your yard if there's cats in your yard. They're smart. They know when cats are out there wandering, and they know they're predators to them.
Yeah, well, we're the same. We've actually got quite a large family of magpies that live in our front yard, backyard, and in just this part of the street. And they're the same. They actually tease the cats. They will walk in front of the areas, and they know.
They do it here too.
It's hilarious. Yep. They're so funny to watch. So it's great.
One of the other benefits is that owners can spend more time with their cats. We have a client who sadly lost her husband, and she was left with the two Bengals, which were her husband's cats. Their names were Hunter and Phantom, so that tells you a little bit about the personality of the cats. And she was really struggling because Bengals like to have an owner that's a bit
very much so. Right?
And they were missing their owner. And so they were just badly behaving for her. So scooting out the back door, she was trying to chase them and get them back in. She had her ankle in a moon boot waiting for her. It was way too much for her. And in the end, we built an enclosure for them to a side of the house that wasn't we normally say, what about a social area where you can sit down and have a cup of tea with your cats? But for this lady, she needed respite. And so the cats, we built an enclosure with a whole lot of big ledges, a pipe that they could run through, just different activity.
Lots of enrichment.
Lots of enrichment. So little builds that help the cats do that. And she found that the cats then, plus they had their pet door to come and go because
Yep.
cats like to choose when they go out.
Yep.
And she formed a much stronger relationship with those cats. They
Yep.
came up, they purred, they nudged her, and then they scooted out again. They were so happy to have this environment.
Yep.
And Phantom, I was reading my notes about the cats and this story, and Phantom then started to come at night time and sit on her lap.
Yep.
And they're exhausted from the day.
Yep.
And she just said it was amazing. They started to form a much closer bond with her.
And that's one of the most interesting things when you, in her case, even though she lived with those cats, it's almost like she had to readopt them. And you can't push cats into anything. You kind of have to give them the space to come to you. And again, it's all about that building that relationship with cats, which is very different to a lot of other animals.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Look, the Cat Tracker program has been absolutely brilliant. I think it's one of the largest surveys in the world of cats.
That was done with the South Australian government, was it?
South Australian UniSA did that, and they, a few years ago, done over 4,000 cats, and they put, for those that don't know, put the little GPS on the back of the harness or on the collar of a cat, and they track where the cats went and what time they went, and they could pick that, not only the distance they travelled from home, but basically the different times of the night they would move into areas, and that would be their territory, their patch to defend. And then when one moved out, the other one would move in. I actually noticed that with our four cats at home, just with, where they sleep, and if one's on my lap then and moves off, the next one will come in, and it's sort of quite fascinating on that territory side of things. But the distance cats roamed the average distance was half the size of Adelaide Oval or something like that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Huge. So for people that thought their cats were stayed in, they were actually surprised that they moved the distance they did. And of course, nighttime is probably the most interesting time for cats to be out. So a lot of the councils now are coming in with looking at curfews. Brilliant, because cats also get out and hunt during the day, and can get bowled over during the day. But it's a start where they're asking for people sun up to sundown, that they're okay, but then once the sun's gone down, to put them back inside.
It's amazing with cats like that, though. It's amazing how quickly they can actually adapt to. My cat just ran through. My Abby's just went crazy and ran up and over the couch and out again. But with cats, they do tend to like they're very strict in how they have things. Like they like things at certain times of days. And we've got Abyssinians, which if we leave them out at night time, they just go absolutely insane. So our Abbey cats actually have their own bedrooms at night time, and they get fed and they go to bed, and it's the way that we keep them calm and asleep at night time, because otherwise they would, like when we first got our first Abbey, all he wanted to do was play all night and then he would sleep all day. So we've kind of massaged their routine so that they know that through the day is their playtime, and at night time that's when everybody goes to bed. And of course it gives the our poor domestics a bit of a relief from the Abyssinians, because they're pretty full on through the day. So, but it's amazing how you can use that sort of changing of their routine so that the cats are happy and that the people are happy and everybody's happy in that environment.
Yeah, that's right. And every household is different, and just got to work out a routine. Ours get fed at 6:30 in the morning. Peter's up, ready, getting ready for the day of building. So they don't get fed before 6:30. Even though they stomp on all over you, sort of thing, wake you up. And 5 o'clock, I swear, Zena, one of our Russians, the only girl in the family other than me, she knows, she can read the time. 5 o'clock, she's within minutes of it, that it's now time to, you know, have tea. And mind you,
Bennett's the same.
Lunch too.
Derek Bennett's exactly the same. If I'm running late with dinner at night time and it's time for him to go to his room and have his dinner, he starts getting really naughty, so I'll put him away. It's very funny like that. So it's amazing. They're like to the minute, really, aren't they?
They are absolutely, and it's good for them, I think, to have that routine. They're safe, and they know what happens. The Russians are usually in, other than Max, he might be out at night time a bit, but Paddy is always, he is out in the enclosure at night time. He's on the top skywalk watching the possums. I'm sure he's got possum friends, and he's just out there, and
that's the best thing. That's awesome. If the fact that they can actually go out at night time but still be safe and not annoy the neighbours and not get into trouble, but can still check to see what's going on. It's a fabulous thing for them from an enrichment safety perspective. It's wonderful.
So we're it's just changed. Obviously, it's changed our world a bit, because we now have the absolute privilege of building and across Adelaide. And we do go down to Victor Way. We've got clients there at the moment that are waiting for enclosures to be built. And out Murray Bridge, we've built a cat boarding facility out there. Just all sorts of different projects that we've been lucky enough to do. The cat community and owners are just absolutely fantastic. What lovely people. And of course,
completely agree. Could not agree with you more.
So we, you know, it's we're at the end of our working life in a way, because I spent over 40 years in government, and Peter's been a builder for a long time now, over 35 years, and so he's got that building knowledge. We're very, very lucky we've always had cats, Peter and I. We've used to have Burmese when we were first married. So we've always had cats. Peter is a bit of a cat person. Plus he's bird person too. His mum had parrots, and they've always been interested in particular Australian birds. And we just feel so lucky to be doing this and being able to communicate and connect with so many people, and let them talk through what they're wanting to do. And not every cat enclosure is the same. It's we usually attach them to a house, so we try and take in the design of the house and keep it as minimal looking as possible. We've pre-COVID, we were in everybody's houses. We're doing it a little bit differently now, with trying to do a few more off-site quotes, but if need be, we'll go on site.
Go and check it out. That's cool. That's cool. I think you're right about the cat people though, and I think the blokes that I know who are people who really like cats are also really, really lovely people. Cat women as well, and I think it goes back again to that. You've got to be able to build a relationship with a cat. It's not like a dog that'll just come and wag its tail and want to pat. A cat, you've got to trust you before you can really build a relationship with it. And I swear that's why cat people, some people don't understand cat people, but when you are a cat person, when you're a cat woman or a cat daddy, you do know that it's because it's that relationship, and that's what makes cat people really good people, I think, because they do care. They have that compassion and caring inbuilt, I think. Cool. All right, well, I think we'll end it there, but thank you so much for the chat today, Jenny. Really, really enjoyed it. I think there's some excellent information in there about good, responsible cat ownership and different ways of being able to enclose your cats. Hopefully we'll talk again soon, and perhaps we can have a look at some examples that people can do. That'd be great.
All right. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.